Hello. I had originally planned to do these videos monthly, but I did not. So here we are. We have 4 months worth of reading to catch up on. Let's just get started. January was a few books, 3 I think. The first one was What the River Knows by Isabel Ibáñez. It is a YA fantasy about this girl whose parents mysteriously suddenly die while they're on an archaeological expedition in Cairo, it's probably late 1800s. So really like that big boom. There's magic because it's fantasy, and there's betrayal, kind of. Yeah, definitely. The main female character, what was her name? Inez. She was definitely young. She was definitely a teenager. The way she would talk and think and react to things, it was a little childish, but we've all been there. And I will say I had an inkling for the plot twist, but I didn't fully convince myself of it. And I was still like, the person who you think, I don't want to spoil anything. It's just, yeah. The twist got me a tiny bit, not fully. I had like a kind of little spidey sense, I did like the magic. I feel like it could have gone further into that magic system because it was a lot of, there's not any current magic. Magic is held in artifacts pretty much. So I thought that would have been more interesting if they had gone more into that. And I also wish they had gone more into the archaeology, but I guess not everyone wants to read about digging around in sand or dirt. I will say, like the last page or something, it had my jaw on the floor. Did not expect that at all for a YA fantasy. Isabel Ibáñez she wasn't playing around. And I did try to read the second book, which is like What the Library Hides. I couldn't get through it. The characters are really annoying me, so did read the first book, enjoyed the first book. It was really fun. Haven't read a YA fantasy in a long time. Second book, I just don't see myself ever finishing that, which is too bad because I really like the premise. The next book was a 1992 Regency romance. It is Ravished by Amanda Quick. I've never read anything by her before, but I mean, just look at that. How beautiful. The main lady in this, she loves a fossil. She's always out in the caves and stuff trying to find fossils. She is deep into it. She's in these caves, they're not really hers, and she discovers evidence or proof of smugglers in her caves, and she's like, these guys can't be here. These are my caves, and they're gonna find my fossil, and it's mine. So she asks for help from the landowner, who is a viscount, and well, and then they fall in love. It was definitely of its time. The main male character, he's dubbed the Beast of Blackthorn Hall because he has a scarred face and a lecherous past. So I think that tells you all you need to know. So some scenes I didn't really like, but it was still very entertaining. Only thing is that, for the main character being so into fossils and everything, and even when they get to London, she joins like the society there or something. There wasn't there still wasn't enough fossils for me. I wanted more of that. You know, I picked it up because she reminded me of Mary Anning, the historical figure who found some pretty major fossils. What was it, like Ichthyosaurus or something? Which, speaking of, I haven't read this. I'm going to read this month. The Geomagician. It is, the main character is Mary Anning. It's a fantasy, and it takes Mary Anning, and I'm really excited about that. This one is Work in Progress by Kat McKenzie. It's this lady, what's her name? Alice. She, you know, the classic romance start of the book. Everything is falling to pieces. Her life is falling to pieces. She loses her job. She loses her fiance. And she decides to make the first impulsive decision of her life by booking a flight to the UK for a 3-week all-female literary bus tour. The tour is all female, yes, but it's all old women. I kind of had an experience like that, not the other stuff, but like the UK bus trip with a bunch of old people. I've done that, and I had a lot of fun reading this because I was just thinking about some of the stuff that I experienced. You know, maybe not as crazy as things happen in books, but it still reminded me of stuff. And then she does have a relationship with the bus driver who's giving the tour. So that was very fun. It's probably one of my favorite contemporary romances I've ever read because it was so much more than just like an angsty romance. It had just everything you could want, I could want. And it was a lot of, she needed to kind of figure out what she wanted to do with her life and embracing new things. And then there's the old women just being wise but also hilarious. And then even the bus driver, yeah, he's the romantic interest, but he's also like incredibly supportive. Yeah, it was a really, really good book. I really liked it. So those are the books I read in January. Let me gather the books I read in February. The first book I read in February, I have already posted a video on this. I did a reading vlog, so if anyone cares, you can go watch that. But it was Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I watched it, read it because the movie was coming out and I wanted to know what all the fuss was about. I really enjoyed it. All of the characters were insane, and I think she did a great job of that. Everyone, there was just not really a single good person in the book. They were all at least like a little bit in the gray. Some more than others. Some towards just full on black. I had never seen any adaptations before reading it, so I didn't really know anything other than what I heard people saying online. But I thought it was interesting that it's in 2 parts, and the first part is Catherine and Heathcliff, and then the second part is kind of the after of them, mostly the after of older Catherine, and it goes into their children's lives and how they affected them. I don't know. I don't have much else to say about this book. I've already posted a video on it. It was very interesting, very dark. There's nothing new I can say. The next book I read was Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. And yeah, I had to read it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I have a tattoo of a scene from the movie, so I had to read the source material. You know, the characters are slightly different from the movie. The movie is maybe a bit more romantic, I suppose. The characters are more flawed, openly flawed in the book, I think, but I still really loved all of them. I'm still charmed by Howl. I don't know. You can't take that away from me. And then I did like Sophie was much more confident, I think, And then Calcifer, I love Calcifer. The inclusion of whales, the way that was in there is pretty funny. I mean, even just that it gives more depth to Hal's character. It was a really fun read. I'm glad I read it. I'd like to read the others. I don't remember what they are, like Castle in the Sky and stuff. So, yeah, Howl's Moving Castle. Love the book, love the movie. I'm just on a kick this year for book to screen adaptations. So, next one was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I mostly read the audiobook, listened to the audiobook, which was so good. And then I think about halfway through the audiobook, I was just so in love with the book, I went and bought the physical book so I could read along. This was, I think, my first sci-fi. I guess I can't say I'm not a big sci-fi person if I haven't read it. I haven't delved into it because I'm maybe a little bit scared of space. I think it's beautiful, but I don't want any part of it, if I think about it too much, I'll freak out. So yeah, I've never read anything like it. The main character, it starts out the book, he doesn't have a clue who he is, where he is, what's going on, why he's there. And eventually he starts getting memories throughout the book, and he's on a spaceship, and he learns he needs to do something to save humanity. And it's not just like this big, anxious book. It's really well balanced with the humor. If the humor wasn't there, probably wouldn't have liked it. I think I would have been too stressed. I have my reading journal down on the floor, so that's what I am looking at. The last 2 books I read in February were on my Kindle, and they were, I'm trying to remember, Victorian murder mysteries with some romance, which I love. The first one was A Murder in Mayfair by Magda Alexander, and I don't really remember what it was about. Uh-oh. All of my notes don't have anything about the plot. They just say some of the writing could have been adjusted because she constantly used leaving behind the scent of blank and the quiet promise of blank at least once every chapter. And the politics that were so important to the characters ended up taking a back seat. Not enough suspense and barely any outside threats. Predictable but really fun and entertaining. So I guess that's what I have to say about that book. I don't really remember it, but yeah, predictable but fun and entertaining. And I do remember the author just like, it's like how all the fantasy books today are like a blank of blank and blank, She used a sentence like that every single chapter, and it always had to do with a scent and like an idea. So like, they left the room in a cloud of sandalwood and musk, and the idea of hope and something. Like every single chapter, it was always that, and it was typically the main male character because of course he had to smell good and he had to leave behind an idea of something. And then I did go on to read the next book after that, which was A Murder in Trinity Lane. See what my notes say, because I really don't remember. The writing improved from the first book, but propriety was just thrown away, even though that's supposed to be really important for the main female character. More heavily focused on the main characters with more romance and less of the side characters. They made, I hate when they do this, they made the female character act dumb even though she's very smart. The mystery and action were better. I genuinely don't remember this because you'll see I started a different series that I think is better. That's a similar premise, and that has just taken over my brain instead. But yeah, I read those 2 books, and I haven't read any since. I don't know if I'll continue. We'll see. That is my reading for February, so let me figure out what I read in March. I think it's quite a bit. Give me a second. Okay, I think that's everything. The first one was, how do you say it? Candide? Candid? Because it has an E on the end. I don't know. Candide, or Optimism by Voltaire. It is a farce. I don't know. It's crazy. It's about this young man, Candide. He's brought up in the household of a German baron, and then stuff starts happening, and it keeps happening. And he's just relentlessly optimistic, and it's like his religion, optimism. And it's the craziest thing I've ever read. It's astonishing what the human mind can come up with. I think it was the first 18th century book I've read, and it exceeded my expectations. You know, I knew the 18th century had some wacky stuff going on. I don't think anything could top it. It was just so much. And look how small it is. It's like 100 pages. I will say I did spend half of the time reading in the notes section because there were so many like historical references and literary references. I was in these notes so much. I read all of these notes. My note in my journal says shocking in its depravity. So then the next one I finished in March. I started it late December, and it became my constant companion for some months. And when I finished it, I was glad for it to be done, but I was also a little like, oh. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I really liked it. It was slow. It was really slow going for me. I've seen other people say they read it in like 4 days. I don't know how they did that. I'm one of those people who read something and I absorb like all of the emotions of the story and that the characters are feeling and putting out. So it took a long time to get through because I was feeling everything that they were feeling, which is probably not a good thing, but it's what happened. I think Dostoevsky did a really good job of not just making me feel what the characters were feeling, but I felt not like I was watching a movie, but like I was in the same room as them. Like I was in Raskolnikov's cramped little room, and they were all sitting around him while he's laying on the bed, and I'm on some rickety chair, and I felt like I was in the same room as them at all times, and I think that was really well done. For such a big book, and considering I spent like 3 months with it, I really don't have much else to say. It was good. I don't see myself rereading it anytime soon, but I'm glad I read it. The next one I read was because I woke up one day and there's specific weather that makes me want to read John Steinbeck. I don't know why. I just woke up and it was that weather, that kind of atmosphere outside, and I just had to pick up a Steinbeck. And I have a lot. I love Steinbeck. He's probably my favorite 20th century author. The one that I picked up was The Red Pony. I also picked it up because, I mean, look how small that is. I needed a break after Crime and Punishment. Just look at the difference. So yeah, The Red Pony, John Steinbeck. It is broken up into 4 sections over like 100 pages. Yeah, exactly 100 pages. And it's about this boy who lives on a ranch in Northern California, and you just kind of see him being a boy living on a ranch. I don't know how else to put it. It's just exactly that. He goes around and he's catching bugs and frogs and snakes. And then he wants to learn how to ride a horse, and then he ends up getting to have his own pony and learn how to take care of that. And then there's also some really sad moments, of course, because I just don't think Steinbeck can help himself. The next book I read on my Kindle, it's the series I was previously talking about that ended up kind of replacing the other Victorian mystery romance series. I don't remember what the series is called, but the first book was A Brazen Curiosity by Lynn Messina, and it takes place Victorian, like country house party, and the main lady, I can't remember her name, she is plain, having heard that from her family. She's an orphan, but she is like a ward of her uncle and aunt, and she lives with her cousins and stuff. But she's heard pretty much all her life, at least since her first season. She got mocked publicly, and since then it's just been like, oh, I'm just plain. That's all I am. I'm just gonna be quiet and just get along with everything, and it's just easier that way. But lo and behold, a murder. One of the characters is murdered in the house party, and it's pretty much like Clue. It was pretty much like that. I mean, it was in the library with a candlestick. She finds a duke standing over a dead body, and we take it from there. They pretty much become a duo. The duke did not do it. Ow, cat's biting me. They kind of team up together, but kind of not really, to solve who done it, and it was very, very fun. I enjoyed it. I like that the main lady, she kind of came into her own, but not really. It gave her a bit more confidence. But she's still incredibly self-deprecating, and having read a few more books, it's still around, so if that annoys anyone, there's your warning. Every once in a while I get annoyed by stuff like that. Like, come on, you're thinking about yourself way too much. But yeah. So that was that book. Very, very fun. And then I read the second book in that series, which is A Scandalous Deception, and it didn't quite hit the same, but it was still really fun. Basically, they're back in town, I think for the season, and she is at the newspaper because she wants to put something in the papers, and a dandy, a pretty popular dandy, falls dead at her feet with a knife, I think in his back, and she's like, oh, guess I have to solve this. Oh, too bad. She loves it. From the last thing, she didn't think she would ever see the Duke again. Of course, there he is, and then they work together and solve it, and it's very, very fun. The next one I read was Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata, and I've had this on my shelves for years, and it was okay. My notes say very strange but kind of heartwarming. It was about this woman who, I don't know if it's blatantly stated, but she's autistic, and she lives in Japan, and there are certain societal expectations. She's always had trouble understanding how people work, pretty much, and why things are the way that they are. And basically, she gets a job at a convenience store, and she's happy there, and she stays there, even when everyone's like, when are you gonna get a real job? When are you gonna get married? When are you having kids? And it's basically that. And it was very interesting. I didn't know where it was gonna end. And I think I'm glad it ended there, because I was a little worried for her. But yeah, it was okay. It wasn't my favorite. It was kind of bland. The next one I read was The Five by Hallie Rubenhold. It's about the women killed by Jack the Ripper. And of course, with that, it goes into Victorian police and newspapers, which I also find very interesting. I like the shift from focusing on this loser who did such horrible things to people to the people and the lives that it affected. I think that's really important. I think we still have major issues with that, of course. So it's like super easy to draw parallels. We're not that different from the Victorians. I was really impacted by the women. It was just, they were just such normal people, and they had such bright futures. And then just circumstances, like a husband leaves you, or you have trouble finding a job, or you have an alcohol dependency, and just stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, your life is just completely turned upside down, and you're sleeping on the streets of Whitechapel. Like, I was enthralled. It was a really, really good book, and I'm really glad I read it. Highly, highly recommend. And the audiobook is really good too. The next one I read was An Infamous Betrayal, which is a continuation of that Victorian murder mystery romance series. This one is the main lady. She wants to find another murder to solve to distract herself from her unrequited love for the Duke. And then, of course, there's the Duke. He's right there, and yeah. Very, very fun books. I don't know what else to say about them. They're just so fun. The next one was A Nefarious Engagement, and I don't want to spoil anything, but Beatrice, that was her name. Beatrice and the Duke's relationship has progressed. Maybe it's not unrequited. Who would have thought? And she ends up looking into her parents' death because it's kind of iffy. So, yeah, that was very good. I don't want to say too much. I really don't. But yeah, we kind of get more backstory into not just her past, but also her family, and kind of more of an understanding of why things have been the way that they have been since her parents died. That's all I can say. Next one I read was for my sister and I's book club that we started. It is The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. It is a historical fiction based around the creation of the dictionary in I guess it was the late 1800s. And there are some actual historical figures in here, which is pretty interesting, but there's also some fake characters, like the main character, Esme. She grows up around the men who create the dictionary, and she kind of sees over time that they're leaving out certain words that are used more by women and people of color and lower class and all of that. Just anyone who's not like a middle class to upper class white man. And she's like, hey, why are you doing that? So she starts collecting the words, and I think it starts with her 6 years old, and yeah, it's throughout the length of her life. And yeah, I will say, I completely forgot that after the Victorian era, which is why I was so excited about this book, because I love the Victorian era, completely forgot that there was a world war. Just didn't even cross my mind. So when that happened, I was distraught. This book just and then stomped on it, So it was a really good book though, but it made me cry a lot. The next one I read was Women in the Picture, What Culture Does with Female Bodies by Catherine McCormick. It is nonfiction. This art historian, she just goes into She uses a lot of famous paintings and pieces that highlight women as examples. Like, oh my gosh, I just forgot. Venus. She uses Venus. I think there's like a whole chapter on Venus and kind of about that. And yeah. Ooh, let's see. Venus, mothers, maidens and dead damsels. And then I think there was another one, wasn't there? Monstrous woman. So it was not a happy book, but not surprising either. I mean, there was a lot of focus on intersectionality. Is that the right word? Like, it wasn't just, this is what happened to white women, poor white women. There was a lot of like other races and stuff like that, which I thought was very interesting and very important and very upsetting. Okay, my cat won't stop chewing on stuff. Stop it, please. Oh, you know what? I read that in April. My bad. Okay, we're in April now. I thought I had read that in March. I read that in April. Okay, let me gather the rest of the April books. Ooh, there's some good books. April was a good month. Month in that country. Curse of Saints. Is that everything? The last book, Women in the Picture, I read that in April. I got ahead of myself. And then, after that, I read The Black Tulip by Alexander Dumas. It's the first Dumas I've read. I feel like it was a good introduction. It is about this guy whose godfather is in the political sphere, and he gets kind of drawn into it for worse. It's not good. It's not a good thing. And he's obsessed with tulips. I think this is the Netherlands, so huge tulip craze going on. And there's this competition that is released that is whoever can grow the black tulip, not the brown tulip, the purple tulip, the black tulip, will get a huge prize. And also be able to name it and all of that. So he's starting to work on growing that when he gets arrested, and then he's in prison. And stuff happens. He's almost executed. And then he moves to another prison. And then does he fall in love with her? I don't know. I'm gonna say this about what year was this? I think it was like mid 1800s. It was a bit insta love. But yes, the warden's daughter, they have some form of relationship, but he also loves his tulips, and there's some conflict there. And yeah, it was a very, very fun read. This one, oh my goodness, there are some really good reads in April. I'm excited. Okay, the next one I read was A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. It is about this guy who fought in World War I. His wife has left him, and he has studied to be like an art conservator, I guess. I don't know what the exact title would be, but this is his first big job on his own, and he goes to this little place in the English countryside to discover and work on a mural in a little chapel, little church. Living in the bell towers surrounded by the resplendent countryside of high summer and laboring each day to uncover an anonymous painter's extraordinary depiction of the apocalypse, he finds that he himself has been restored to a new and hopeful attachment to life. And it's basically him reflecting on that summer and what it was and what it meant to him. It's a little book, but it's very beautiful. And then the next one I read was A Treacherous Performance, continuation of that series. I liked this one as much as the first. The author kind of switched up the formula so it didn't get too repetitive, because the previous books were starting to have like a layout that she was following. So this one kind of switched that up, and I think that was a good idea. And all of the characters have some nice growth. And we're still seeing the main girl, Beatrice. Every book she gets a little bit more confident, which is really nice to see. We're caught up on that series now, okay? And then this next book I read for my sister and I's book club for April, and it is The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. And it's like right there with A Month in the Country. It was just a beautiful book. But it is about these 4 women who haven't really ever met before, and they spend a month in April in a castle in Italy, just kind of healing, pretty much just kind of sitting around and thinking about their lives and if they're happy with their lives and all of that. It was a beautiful book. The descriptions of the nature, oh my goodness. Last book of April was The Curse of Saints by Kate Dramas. Curse of Saints. It is a fantasy. I think it's the start of a trilogy. And has she been sent to save the world or destroy it? And magic in this world that was given by the gods, and only some people get it. It's not something you can really acquire. Just some people are born with it. And everyone has like abilities, like there's the elements like fire, ice, and stuff, but there's also like you can play with people's emotions and influence them and be really strong. So like magic like that, which is really interesting. Basically, Aya, the main lady, I can't remember what her main power is, but she maybe has other powers, and she might be the second saint to save the world. I don't know. She has to work with Will, who she does not like because she thinks he is no good and has ruined her life. I don't know what else to say without spoiling anything. It was very, very interesting, very fun. I did get a little bit annoyed with the main girl because she was just like, I don't know, like, come on. It's easier as the reader to more clearly see other characters, so obviously just the way she sees this character and is so stuck in her thoughts and her ways about that character, eventually I was getting a little annoyed with it. There's adventure. They go to another kingdom to try and figure out stuff, and it was fun. I don't really have anything to say about it. I feel like I already forgot it. I might continue it, might not. I don't really feel the urge to continue the series because it's not like left off on a super cliffhanger, but maybe kind of, but I don't really care. But it was still very fun. I still enjoyed it. So far, a good reading year. I think I've got a nice variety of genres, but also like star ratings as well. Some of these books I've loved, and some of them have just been okay. So it's been good. Currently reading a Regency romance. What else? Kind of another historical fiction. I can't remember. I read a lot of books at the same time, so I never know what's going on. Yeah, I'd like to do these videos monthly, but I make no promises, okay? So, I'll see you around. I've got to go get my hair cut. Okay.